Voting is already underway in the race to replace Deb Haaland, the U.S. House of Representatives, and the special election is also on the debut of the same-day voter registration here in New Mexico. Lawmakers approved the practice in 2019, but it's being rolled out earlier than expected because of Ms. Haaland's appointment as Secretary of the Interior early this year, as you remember. We have interviews with all the major party candidates up on our website at newmexicoinfocus.org. But let's start here, as many states, including Georgia and Arizona, are looking to restrict voting access in the wake of the 2020 election. We seem to be headed in the other direction here in New Mexico, as this same-day voter registration shows. Dee Dee Feldman, State Senator, what do you think is behind that? Why are we so different?
Well, New Mexico has always been very progressive when it comes to voting rights and voting access. Not only are we moving toward same-day registration, but we have online voter registration. We have a very expansive early voting period. Some states only have 3 days, and they're trying to restrict it. We have voting convenience centers where you can go anywhere in Albuquerque and get a ballot particular to you, and that makes it very convenient. And we've done a lot of other things to make voting more accessible to everyone. We have used drop boxes out in rural areas where the mail is uncertain. But this time we had a special session of the legislature, and county clerks were allowed to mail absentee applications to voters so that they didn't have to endanger their health by going to the polling places. So we've had a very progressive record here. We were one of the first states to go back to paper ballots.
Right.
So it's not just in expanding the franchise. We're also tops in securing the elections. And after the 2000 elections and widespread doubt about the machines, at that time we said we're gonna spend the money and we're gonna go back to paper ballots so we can verify these things. And we have. So I'm proud of our Secretary of State right now. But the ones that came before her too have consistently made it easier to vote.
Good stuff.
And
there.
the legislature sometimes has opposed that.
That's
I mean,
a good
they
point.
have tried to block it, but they have continued.
That's a good point there. I'm glad you got that in. David, when you think about it, I mean, it used to be the Saturday before Election Day, you could either change your registration or register to vote. Now it's right up to Election Day. You can walk into the place, sign up, bring your paperwork, do whatever you need to do, and you can vote that day and get registered that day and vote. It's a huge change when you think about it.
It's a huge change, but also I think credit where credit is due. We have politicians from both sides of the aisle. We have had political will in this state that has said voting is important. We should make it accessible. We've had Spanish language ballots. Do not underestimate the ability of people like Daniel Ivey Soto has been a tremendous, he's written the legislation. They tend to always get it right. But also I think that there's something in the air that says voting is important. We need to get everybody registered. We want them to vote. And I think you have to credit, the county clerks all over the state have been tremendously helpful in making sure that everybody knows, come to my office and I'll register you to vote. There's been a lot of groups that have run around and registered voters. I've got teachers at high schools who make it their mission to make sure that their kids are registered to vote when they turn 18 or when they turn 17, that they could do it. So, I mean, it's a lot of individuals that have collectively said, we like voting, we think voting is important. Do not underestimate the psychology of voting is a good thing. And I think, and honestly, I'm going to tell you that I think the parties in the different states that are trying to limit voting, it's going to backfire because in some ways they are creating an environment where when you tell people they can't do something, then they immediately want to do it. And I think that restrictive voting is not a good idea.
Good point. I love that. Crystal, we got some insight this week into early voting turnout. Registered Democratic voters outpacing Republican voters by a 2-to-1 margin. In fact, the gap in Democrats voting early is outpacing the registration gap between the two parties. What do you think explains that difference? What is it about Democrats that have embraced early voting, but Republicans still seem to not quite get there with this.
I don't know if it's a matter of whether or not Democrats have embraced early voting. We just have to look at the demographics of the area that CD1 is. I mean, the last time we had somebody in the Republican seat was maybe Heather Wilson in like the early 2000s.
2006.
And so, yeah. And so like, I don't disagree that Democrats are obviously understanding voting rights. You know, their interpretation of democracy is so different, obviously, from Republicans. That's why we have the two-party system. But at the end of the day, we have to think about what is the population of CD1, and it always skews blue. Like you can even look to the mayoral races that are not supposed to be partisan. They always skew blue. And so and it's funny too, to kind of go back to the topic that you were talking about voting rights, voter registration, et cetera. My first job was for the New Voters Project, a nonprofit that would register young people to vote. And the conversations that we had back in 2005, yes, I'm that old, that in 2005, when we were registering people to vote at 18 to 21, we would go to places that they would be like Pride or parties or Central, where people would all hang out. But the same issues that we're having now are the same issues we had back then. It's access to voting and making sure we register people on time, making sure that they don't need an ID to access a ballot of some sort, understanding what a ballot looks like and how a properly marked circle needs to be counted as a vote.
That's right.
All the issues that we're running into now, it seems like monumental change in New Mexico, but they're changes that have been slowly but surely happening over the last decade or two.
Good point there. Senator, turnout still pretty low overall, about 4% on Monday of this week, which is not unusual for a special, certainly, but has all the rhetoric about voting integrity come home to roost for you? What's going on right now in this moment?
No, I think that we're going to have a low turnout in this election, but the whole story isn't in. There are 15,000 people who have requested absentee ballots and who have not yet voted. So, this is the big trend now that we have seen this year, and that is the huge uptick in the use of absentee ballots. Yes, early voting is important, but what marked this year and what mostly irked the people that lost in these states where they're trying to restrict absentee ballots is the use of absentee ballots. It used to be a Republican thing. Republicans were always better at absentees, and they skewed toward the older voters, the military voters. But now many more people are using them because of the pandemic. And that's a trend that's going to continue. I work part-time for Common Cause New Mexico, and we did a lot of work during the general teaching people how to vote absentee because it's different than voting in person. And you can screw up. And what do you do if you screw up? Those are all questions that people had. But I think that I think we're going to continue to see people want to vote. Both Democrats and Republicans. It's the foundation of democracy. And yes, I think people are rebelling when barriers are put up there unnecessarily. It's so obvious to people.
Jean, I do want to ask the question, though, to all of us, like how much of voting turnout is actually because it's not a presidential election year or it's not a gubernatorial? I mean, I don't know what the statistics are, Dee Dee, but I mean, there's got to be something that says like special elections just historically have a low turnout because people forget that there's a turnout.
Absolutely. And I think that you're really lucky if you get a 20% turnout in a special election and also in a mayoral election.
That's right.
It's usually low.
That's right. David, Bernalillo County Clerk Linda Stover told me in a Facebook Live discussion earlier this week on Wednesday that New Mexico has some of the most secure election systems in the country. She mentioned paper ballots that Senator mentioned just a bit ago. Do you think that's the general consensus among voters right now, or?
I mean, I think that the voters are very confident in New Mexico's abilities to handle good elections, and people aren't stupid. I mean, this idea that the election was stolen, going back 6 6 or 7 months, if you saw what was happening in Arizona, I mean, even the people that were sort of, supporting it, they're saying, okay, this is over. We have to do it. You do not want to overplay your hand. I mean, 17,000 different entities touch voting in this country. Mm-hmm. I mean, the idea that there could be a conspiracy and that you can somehow throw an election, it's not possible. But I will say Linda Stover and Maggie Toulouse-Oliver, the Secretary of State, New Mexico has a good reputation for voting because they've worked at it. I mean, when they weren't going to stick with the machines, they said we felt there was some question about whether the machines were safe. They simply pitched it and they said the integrity of these elections are good. They've worked at it, and also I think the state legislature could be a little bit more generous with giving these county clerks more money to run elections and everything. But I also think that the state parties could be a little bit better about saying, I don't care if you're a Democrat or you're a Republican or you're something in between. They need to encourage voting also. We need the entire chorus saying, get out and vote. It is the sort of the dues you pay for living in a democracy. Everybody needs to push voting without a doubt.
Thank you for that, Dave. And that's going to do it for now. But we'd love to hear what you think about early voting and all the opinions you just heard about New Mexico's election system. Just drop us a line on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram by searching for @NewMexico in Focus.